Welcome everyone to this CELPIP Speaking Part 2 Personal Experience Analysis. Now I'm just here in the CELPIP Library Speaking Part 2. And before we get started, I do want to remind you that Speaking Part 2 focuses more on CLB 4, 5, and 6. What does that mean? Well, that means that this question should be easy enough for CLB 4, 5, or 6 to answer well. So if you need that level, then you should do well in this part, okay? Because other parts will be more difficult. And now, if you are higher level, if you need 7, 8, or 9, it means you will do well in this part too, but it means that this part will not show your higher level speaking like part 1, 6, or 7. Those parts will really show CLB 7 or higher, okay? Because this part, it's easier for all levels, okay? Now, also I want to remind you that we do have this really great tips and strategies video. This video will give you some ideas about how you can plan to answer the question, how you can prepare, how you can read the question, and just some things that you should do when you answer speaking part 2. And some of the tips and strategies that I will be following are in this video. So I will be leaving a link in the description box to that video, okay? So then let's look at today's volume sample. And we are going to look at volume 9, memorable activity. And everyone, this will be a CLB 5-6 sample, okay? And also, I do want to let you know that most of our lessons include vocabulary building. Now, vocabulary building is a really great exercise. It teaches you some new words. For example, over here we have words, basic meanings, some synonyms, some antonyms. And then after that, you have this really great vocabulary exercise where you have to complete the sentence by choosing one word from the list. You need to clean up and your messy desk. Good question. Whatever you maybe organize, hint, hint. So whatever you think it is, you write down the word in here. I'm not going to write it for you. And then you check your score and you should get 70% and you can review and retake the quiz. Very great exercise for building vocabulary. Also, both lessons have grammar building. Now, grammar building is a great exercise to improve your grammar. Now, for part 2 students, very important, most of the questions are in the past tense. So lower levels, 4, 5, and 6, we need to know our past tense very well, but also can be present tense and some future tense. We need to know our basic tenses, okay? And this grammar exercise is a very great lesson to inform you about past tense. And then you have some exercises. You read the exercise. I my teeth 3 times yesterday. I cleaned my teeth 3 times yesterday. Number 2, it was hot in the room, so I opened the window. Okay, so you write it down. It was hot in the room, so I opened the window. Very great. You write it down and you do them all like that. There's some more here, some more here. So the speaking guide, everyone, if you want a more detailed understanding of the speaking guide, then please watch the tips and strategies video in the link below. For now, all I want to tell you is that, well, usually this question, like I said, is complexity is 4 to 6, not very difficult. That means that lower levels, you should answer this question well. Higher levels, of course, you should answer this question very easily, okay? And also for higher levels, this question will not be the question that will determine whether you are 7 or higher, okay? That's important to know. Most of the questions involve past tense or simple tenses, okay? Using present, past, future. Simple, very important. Lower levels, it's so important not to make so many mistakes with simple tenses. Higher levels, definitely you shouldn't make any mistakes with simple tenses for 7 or higher, okay? But lower levels, just a simple example, is or are, was or were, right? Will be, going to, conjugating the verb, study, studies. That kind of error you should try not to make, okay? And then, of course, very important, everyone, we want to have a complete response. Use all your time. No matter your level, you should try to use the full minute. Speaking for 30 seconds is too short. But also, you have to try to finish the question in 1 minute. Okay, so one thing that we can do is we can get to the last part of the question faster and speak more about it. I will explain more of that later in the example, okay? But again, using all your time, very important, okay? All right, and then here we have how we should organize our answer. Yes, organizing our response. And this is something that I will be using as I speak, and I will be telling you each part, introducing the question, answering the first points, okay, second points, and last points. The points are the questions that are in this topic. There are usually 2 or 3 questions, or sometimes 4. Again, you see here these questions. Where were you working? What was your job position? What was the promotion? Why do you think you got the promotion? Right. So that's what it means here with answer the first question, second question, last question. Okay. Very good then, everyone. Let's get started with today's analysis. So then, let's get to our question. Speaking part 2, personal experience, preparation time 30 seconds, speaking time 1 minute. Okay, let's read the question, all right? Talk about the most memorable activity you have ever done. Okay, have ever done. That's present perfect, and that means in your whole life. Something you have ever done in your whole life. Okay. Maybe you can talk about a place you visited. So, somewhere you visited, a special trip you took, special trip, a hobby you did, some kind of activity, hobby, activity, or a once in a lifetime event. So, once in a lifetime, something very, very special. Okay, so the most memorable activity you ever did. Here's something example. Now, the questions we need to answer. What was the activity? Okay. How did it make you feel? And why was the event memorable? Okay. So then, something that you remember a lot or something memorable. Memorable means you remember it a lot. So it's memorable. Okay. All right. So before we get started, I just want to remind you, we are going to be building a 5-6 answer. For that, we need to make sure we answer the question clearly, exactly this question, not something that's not the question, okay? Then we need to just give some basic ideas, some ideas about that activity or event, okay, or experience. We need to use some general or basic sentence structure using simple present, past, and other grammar points, but very important, not too many simple errors. That's the most important. And of course, we're going to be trying to speak with some good fluency and intonation and clarity. Okay? So then, let's get started first by introducing the question. Okay? Introducing it clearly. I'd like to speak about the most memorable activity I ever did. Okay, very good. So, everyone is a very good sentence structure. So, you see, you're speaking to basically, you're speaking here indirectly, not to someone. Or you could say, hello, I want to speak about. You could say, hello, I want to speak about. You could say that, but this one is also very clear and direct. Okay? Now, notice here the most memorable activity. Right over here, the most memorable activity. Now, you can say, I ever did, or you can say, I have ever done. Now, the reason I just used here ever did is because it's almost the same. And lower levels, 5, 6, we don't know present perfect so well. I don't want to confuse you with present perfect yet, okay? So let's just use simple past. It's easier, okay? And there we go. Everyone, I want to remind you that I'm going to be color coordinating. Everything in blue will be my structure, connection. How do I organize my answer? And then red will be the main grammar forms I used. And the black will be everything else, okay? So I introduced the question very clearly. Now let's get to my first point where I should answer the first question. What was the activity? Okay? So let's do that. First of all, I traveled to many countries. Okay. I tasted many different foods. And I had many interesting and exciting experiences. Okay, so in this sentence, I'm just saying that I did many things before. Okay? I did many. Traveled a lot, tried many foods, and I had many interesting experiences. Okay? Very good. But I think the most memorable one was when I visited the Grand Canyon. Oh, okay, so very good connection here. So we said we did many things, but the most memorable was when I visited the Grand Canyon. Okay. So the most memorable one, it was, but I think the most memorable one was when I visited the Grand Canyon. Okay. So there you go. We said what it was when I visited the Grand Canyon. Now, everyone, very important, we're using past tense, right? Many questions in part 2, they are past tense, like here. Visited, was, I traveled, tasted, had. That's very important for this level 5-6. We need to use past tense and we need to try to not make many simple errors with past tense, okay? All right, so very good. I spoke about that, or I said what was the activity. Now I need to say, how did it make you feel? The second part. Okay, let's see. About that trip. I went there this past summer in August, and it was amazing because the canyon was so big and beautiful. Okay, so I kind of answered here, just said about the trip. I went there last summer or this past summer. We can say this past summer, last summer. Okay? Okay, and how did it make me feel? It was amazing. You could say it made me feel. Yeah, we could say that one. Okay, you could say it made me feel. Well, here we need to say it made me feel amazed. Just amazed means great. Okay, made me feel great. That's more clearly and direct. Okay, also last summer. Okay, last summer. So so I went there last summer in August and it made me feel great. So I just want to explain there that the question says, how did it make you feel? So level 5-6, we should try to use the information it says here to answer each part of the question more clearly. Okay. Now, I said it was amazing. That's good too. But this here, just to make it easier for you to understand, it made me feel great because it was amazing. Okay. Oh, because the canyon, why? Why did it make you feel great? Because the canyon was so big and beautiful. So it made me feel great. Great, happy. Okay. Very good. So we answered that question there. I'm just going to copy this sentence. Okay. So now let's get to the last question. And why was the event memorable? So, why was it memorable? That's what we need to say in the last sentence, okay? Let's put it here. Let's see. So, personally, it was so memorable. So, why was it so memorable? It was so memorable because I didn't go to canyons before. So it will be something I will never forget. Okay. So again, why was it memorable? So it was memorable. So memorable. Why? Because I didn't go to canyons before. Okay. Very good. So it will be something I will never forget. Great. Great, everyone. Very good. I'm going to change this sentence here. Very good. So you see, everyone. Okay. So, everyone, firstly, this is an example of 6. Why is it 6? Well, first, everyone, because we organized so well. Okay. We organized so well. See, here it has talk about this, answer these 3 questions. We organized very well, and that's so important for 6. Okay. Secondly, because we answered each part clearly. We answered each part clearly, and that's very important. What was the activity? Going to the Grand Canyon. How did it make you feel? It made me feel great because of this. Why was it memorable? It was so memorable because of this. So that is so important for level 6, okay? And then, of course, because of the expression of ideas, okay, everyone, using past tense. We used past tense here. Now also, over here, we used future because about the future, I will never forget it. So, expressing the ideas correctly in grammar with no mistakes, that's always 6, okay? Now, level 5, maybe you don't say everything, but more importantly, level 5, they make more mistakes, okay? More mistakes in their expression of ideas. Even level 6, you can make some mistakes, but level 6, less mistakes. Now, if you can make no mistakes like we did here, then that's very good. 6 for sure. Okay? So less mistakes, higher levels, and more ideas, higher levels. These ideas here, it's enough for 6, okay? Now, of course, everyone, it's about speaking. It's about speaking, not only quality of answer, our speaking. We need to speak everything in 1 minute, and we need to do it with very good flow and intonation. Flow, slowly and continuously. We don't want to be stopping so much. We want to keep speaking. And intonation, it's about pronouncing everything clearly and with some good stress in the sentences where we need to emphasize some parts, okay? So I'm going to speak this answer now in 1 minute. And everyone, please follow along and try to focus on my flow and intonation, okay? I'd like to speak about the most memorable activity I ever did. First of all, I traveled to many countries, I tasted many different foods, and I had many interesting and exciting experiences. But I think the most memorable one was when I visited the Grand Canyon. Now, about that trip, well, I went there last summer in August, and it made me feel great because the canyon was so big and beautiful. Personally, it was so memorable because I didn't go to canyons before, so it will be something I will never forget. Okay, everyone. Now you saw there, I did it with good flow and intonation for this level exactly in 1 minute. Now, I did add something here that I want to say. I put now about that trip, and then also I put well. Now, I put these words in because this is very natural to say. The more natural you can be, the better, okay? All right. So, very good flow and intonation for level 5-6, okay? Now remember, it's not about speed reading. And of course, I could read this in 30 seconds or less. But that's not what we want to do. We want to practice flow and intonation. And how do we practice? Practice. First, we need to read and understand how we organized this answer. Remember the blue. Use it even now, about, and well. Yes, those are really good connectors to use, all the blue here. Then we need to read and understand the ideas that I gave. We need to understand them. Going to the Grand Canyon, what I did there, okay? And then we need to read and understand the expression using past tense, everyone. using past tense and future. We need to read and understand that. Then, everyone, we need to read and speak this answer in 1 minute. We need to read it and speak it in 1 minute to practice our flow and intonation. The more that you practice reading and speaking it in 1 minute, the more you will improve your flow and intonation. Okay, everyone? And then lastly, everyone, well, can you speak that answer in 1 minute without reading it? Can you do that? From your knowledge, not from memory. After you read it, can you speak it in 1 minute? Well, level 6, they can. They can speak this answer in the 1 minute. Okay, after they read it. Maybe not exactly, but almost all of it. Okay? So that's what we want to do. We want to practice speaking the answer in 1 minute without reading from your knowledge, not memorizing. We don't want to try to memorize. We want to try to read and understand and keep the information so we can speak it from knowledge. So for that, everyone, I will be leaving a link in the description box to this sample question. Okay? Let's not forget about CELPIP Library. Now, CELPIP Library has over 60 examples of speaking part 2, an interaction with an animal, doing it again, a home project, feeling surprised, a valuable profession, skills, place to visit, my family, a movie, an event, your dream, doing it again. Oh, we read that one already. Winners, bad service, an older friend, being stressed. So many topics, energetic. Over 60 examples of speaking part 2, where you can read sample answers, read and speak. Very great way to improve your speaking part 2 knowledge, okay? And for that, with discount code CELPIP79, again, that's discount code CELPIP79, you can get a 3-month subscription of CELPIP Library for $10.99. What a great deal, everyone. That's a great deal. And I strongly recommend it, okay? Let's not forget, practice makes perfect.